One of the most common questions I get asked is how do you pay CRA? Before we begin, it's really important to realize that the amount has to go into the right account. There are individual accounts, business accounts, HST accounts, and there's also payroll. There can be many other accounts where the amount can go into. By making sure that we are selecting the right method and the right option ensures that the amounts are going into the right place and the CRA is assessing against your tax return correctly. Is it for your personal tax return? Is it for your sole proprietorship? HST number for that? Is it for your corporation? Which year does it belong to? Is it for 2022, 23, 24? It has to be allocated to the right year. And what are you actually paying these amounts for? Is it after the due date and you filed your taxes and now you have an amount owing? Is it installments, quarterly installments or monthly installments that need to be paid, whether it's for HST or GST? Or is it for corporate tax installments? Amounts owing for previous years that you're paying for. So all of these considerations need to be factored in to make sure that we are selecting the right choices. If you don't select the right account, there can be some consequences. So as long as the money is with CRA, then you can always move the amounts from one account to another. But the problem is it might not be allocated to the right account, which means CRA will still continue to send you reminders and notice of collection, and they will still continue to accrue the interest and penalties that are on late payments. So to avoid this confusion and extra time that might be wasted going online, moving the amounts, perhaps contacting the CRA and trying to figure out which account it went to avoid these matters, we want to make sure it's done correctly from the first place. So a real life example of this is someone I know, they accidentally went into their personal account, they put in their business number and paid CRA. That pay was actually for an individual. And because they couldn't trace it to any sort of business, this ended up going into an individual account. And after a year later, CRA kept contacting them to make the payment. The person had to request a whole search for the CRA, providing proof of payment from their bank statements. And CRA took about a few months to find out that this amount actually went into a random account, which wasn't their business, and move it to their business account. At the end of the day, they didn't have to pay any extra taxes, but the added effort and energy and time wasted is not really worth it. So in this tutorial, we will explore two ways by which you can actually pay your taxes. One will be directly through the CRA website. You can go step by step and make the payment, or through the online portal, and that's through your online banking, perhaps your personal if you're paying the personal taxes, and through business if you're paying business taxes. As a business owner, one of the best ways to make a payment is directly through the My CRA business account. So the first thing you want to do is log into your business account with My CRA. If you don't have an account, I would highly recommend creating one because it comes in handy in many occasions. So once you've logged in, you can come to the main page and you can see all of your different accounts down here. So once you're here, then you can go, let's say as an example, we'll use GST to make a payment or kind of walk through the steps for the payment. So we'll click on the GST account number, and over here at the top it says view and pay account balance, and the other option is calculate and pay installment payments. So let's go through the installment payments. Once we go here, we can simply select I agree. It shows the year end, and then it shows the estimated amount of tax. Let's say hypothetically we put in $10,000 that is owed for the year, or that's what's estimated based on your last year. And then we calculate, and it shows the quarterly payments and the deadlines. This is also very handy for you to keep track of as you're making HST payments. So as we're going through it, to pay, we would put in, let's say 2322.14, proceed to pay, and then it gives us a few options here, right? So one is pay at Canada Post. That is a tedious process, sounds pretty long. I have never done that. Visa or debit, that's an option I've used before. This is also straightforward. We've walked this option in detail in one of the other areas of this video, so you can view that. But directly paying from your checking account and putting your account number is probably going to be the least amount of headache, because as we'll see, these options are very limited based on the bank accounts that you have access to. So this, you can do it with any bank account So we'd go on select a checking account or pay from your checking, and then all your information is here. Review through how many payments. Here you have an opportunity to also make installment payments. So not only just one payment, but if you want to make scheduled payments, then you can set that up here where it shows number of payments, the amount that is being paid, when is it going to be paid, and that's the date ranges over here and how often. So once you come to this area, it shows a sample void check. This check can be retrieved from your bank account. Once you log in, every single bank has an area. It shows void check. You can click on it and access. Get the information and simply put in the branch number, institution number, and the bank account number. Once you've done that, you can press next and go through and finalize that. And based on when your payment date was set up, the amount will be withdrawn from your account. So this directly from your business bank account is probably one of the most straightforward ways of paying for any of your business accounts like your HST or corporate account to the CRA. So this is the payments to CRA portal. All of the information that we need to make any sort of payment to CRA can be found here. So there's two aspects to this area and the website. One is a step-by-step method to go to your bank account or to your credit card information or your debit card information to make the payment. And the other is to get any sort of information on other ways to make the payment. So in this case, let's go through the payments for business and see what it looks like. We'll go to make a payment because we're mainly concerned about making payments. Here, it gives us a simple guide to show what type of payments we want to make for our corporation. Is it corporate income tax? Is it GST payroll? Any of these other things? We will select corporate income tax. So this page shows all of the options for businesses to pay most of their taxes that are owed. These are what will be applicable for most of the corporations, especially small business corporations. So that's what we're looking at. These are the different options. One is if you want to pay online. These are the different methods that can be used. If you want to pay by credit card, PayPal, or Interact e-transfer, then we can use this channel. But here we have to remember that there's a fee that's going to be charged. And if you want to pay using third-party service providers, then that's another option. Paying in person, paying without a Canadian bank account, or paying by check. Because we're dealing mainly with paying online, we will look at a couple of options here. So if we look at paying by credit card, PayPal, or Interact e-transfer, this is through a third-party provider. Pay Simply, you can click and go to Pay Simply site and start a process here to make the payment. But again, there's going to be fees. So we can look at the fees over here. And generally, if the amounts are large, these could really add up. So it's not an option that I recommend unless you really need to use it. The other option is through online banking and the instructions. This area just shows the instructions and through My Payment. So if you look at online banking, we can see the instructions on how to add a payee. It looks simple here, but I've tried it. It's not as simple in real life. So I will go through an example in an actual bank account to show what it might look like and how this feature can be used. And then the other option is My Payment. This is in this option, this is my favorite option if you are able to make a payment through this. And this can be through your login account, so your Interact login, or you can use your Visa debit and debit MasterCard to make the payment. And these payments will directly come out of your debit account and it won't charge you any fees. So the option would be, so if we want to use this option, we would go Pay Now and select the corporate income tax again. Here we have different options that we want to select. And this is important because we want to make sure CRA understands why we're making the payment. Payment on filing is basically the way it sounds. You've submitted a tax return and you need to make a payment that is shown on the tax filing. And that is what we would select to make that payment. Interim is if you need to pay installments throughout the year, which most corporations do. It could be quarterly or monthly installments, and that's the option. Amount owing is if CRA has requested you to make a payment on their notice of assessment or another notice, then that's the amount that we would pay. Balance due is After you've made the installments, if you have not made enough payments and you are at the deadline, which is generally 3 months after the corporate year end for small businesses, then we would select this option and make the payment through there. In this case, we will select payment on filing. We'll want to fill out the account number here and the period and the amount. So let's say for my business, I'm making $100 payment for 2023 year end. Then this is what I would select. This shows a summary of the payments that you're making for your corporate income taxes. We can also add another payment here and make all the payments at once. So let's see what that looks like. If we go to add payment, we can also add, for example, GST payment. And we would do the same thing here. We would go through GST, see what type of option. Let's say I might be doing an interim payment, an installment. Then I can select installment, fill out the information, go next, and it would come up under the summary. In this case, I'll cancel this payment to go back. Here, I want to confirm and proceed to pay. And it gives me the two options that showed earlier. If we select this option, then we would be going through our online banking login. Right now, it's not available for RBC as it is mentioned here. It might come back, it might not. In that case, if you have a Visa debit or a debit MasterCard, then you could use it. Or else you only have options for TD and First Nations Bank. This is a really good option. If you have a TD bank account for your business, you can easily just log in and pay directly through here. If not, then this option is not available for you. We can cancel and return to CRA. When we do that, it shows that the transaction is not completed. And we can press yes to go back to the summary, so all your work is not lost. So now we're back to the summary again. We can confirm and proceed to pay. Now I'll select Visa debit to make a payment. So we will fill out the information here for the payment that needs to be made. And just like buying something online, we can make a payment to CRA. Now, to pay personal taxes, I really believe that the easiest way is through your online banking, because you can simply go in. It gives you all sorts of different options. Generally, you do have an amount. You might have an amount owing at the end of the year, or you might have an amount owing for the last year. And so you can select the option very easily. Fill up your SIN number. Add yourself as a payee. Once you've added yourself as a payee, you can simply go in, select your CRA account, and make the payment through there. To pay your taxes online using your business bank account, you have the instructions here on the website, as we saw earlier. You would need to log into your financial institution and add a payee and look for options such as these. So although these options are here, and the list is here of all of the banks that are participating, and it clearly says this is for business, you actually might not be able to find any option like this in your bank account. If we follow the instruction from CRA and check our payee in the business account for RBC, we actually don't find anything that allows us to make the payment. So for example, it says federal GST. If I type GST, then there's no option. Payroll, there's no option to make payments for CRA, or even if I type CRA, there are no options here to pay the business. One thing we want to watch out for is not to confuse these options for your business. This is a common mistake that a lot of people make, and it's clear that these are not for business. And the way to check that is if you click in and select the option, it'll say at the top, this is for paying personal income taxes. You want to input your social insurance number. So this is good for personal taxes, even if it is from a business bank account. the option will show up, but it's not good. It's not useful for business taxes. It's only useful for personal taxes. And the same thing with the other options as well. They are actually for personal taxes. So in this case, for RBC, for example, the only real option you have is to pay through payments to CRA website, and you can use the Interac Visa debit or MasterCard debit. We were able to make a payment for RBC by just simply logging in, as I showed earlier, and making the payment. But this option is no longer available for some reason. So the only other way is to use the Visa debit or MasterCard debit. Or if you are willing to pay, then there's a portal here that can be used. It's called Tax Filing Service. And we can see that there's a fee. There's a one-time enrollment fee and a fee of $2 per transaction and a monthly fee as well. So this portal can also be used to make a payment, but this is what it looks like for RBC. As we can see, every bank is a bit different. So here we can see that for TD, we have some options to pay through the business account, your CRA login business account. And if you do search for CRA, we can see that there's different options. We can even pay corporate income tax amount owing. We can pay source deductions, and then the rest are kind of personal in nature. So these options are available. So based on different accounts that we're seeing, it looks like different banks are allowing different type of payments to be made to CRA through their pay bill feature. So it's not consistent throughout at all. So these options, although the CRA website states that we have an option to pay through your business account online as a payee, we can see that those options are limited. So in that case, it kind of comes back to the same question. What is the easiest way of making the payment? Which I would say is by directly paying through the CRA website. So as a summary, what I would say is the best way to pay CRA for the businesses is to log into my business account and pay from there. If that is not an option, then the other method could be to go to Pay CRA Portal and directly make payment from there using your Visa debit if you have an option, or through TD. And for individuals, the best thing to do is to log into your online banking, add CRA as your payee, and directly make a payment to CRA through there.